Okay, these are your notes on simple interest. So simple interest is going to take us 2 days to cover. This is our first day of notes, and today all we're finding is we're learning how to find just the interest. So first of all, what is simple interest? Simple interest is the interest earned only on the principal. And this principal is spelled Princicle. Okay, it is earned over a period of time, and that time is always written in years. So if they give you months, then where you need to convert it into years. And the rate is always written as a percent. Okay, what is principal? Principal is the amount of money either deposited, if it's talking about some kind of savings account, or borrowed, if it is referring to a loan. So if you open up a savings account, which all of you are of the age now where you may have a savings account, you just have to have mom or dad sign off on it. You can deposit money into there and it can earn a simple interest. You can earn money just by having your money sit in the bank. Okay? That deposit is the principal. Or let's say you're going to college and you need to borrow money, you need to take out a loan. The amount of money that you borrow is also called the principal. Okay, what is the formula to find simple interest? And it's very simple. It's I equals PRT. Now, what do the I, P, R, and T stand for? So I stands for interest. Okay, so the interest is always the amount of money. Okay, P stands for principal. So again, this would be an amount of money, and the principal, remember, is the amount you either deposited into your account or the amount that you borrowed from the bank. R stands for rate, and a rate is always a percent. And T stands for time. How long did your money stay in the savings account, or how many years did you borrow money for? And then remember, that's always written in years. So we're going to do a couple examples so we learn how to find interest. So use the simple interest formula to determine the amount of interest earned. Then find the total value of the account. So there's two things we're going to do here. We're not only going to find the interest, we're going to find the new total of the account. So a $900 deposit for 20 years at a simple interest rate of 4%. So you have $900 that you want to put in the bank for 20 years. That's a really long time. And let it collect interest, and your interest rate is 4%. So the thing that you're always going to want to do first, every single time, which is going to also allow you to memorize the formula really fast, you always want to write down your formula. I equals PRT. And then what we do is we go in and we fill in any of the letters that we know, the variables that we know, and anything we don't know, we're going to leave. And we're always going to know everything except for one piece. So here today we're only going to try and find interest. So every time my I is going to be what we're finding today. That's not always the case. Okay, principal, remember, is the amount deposited or the amount borrowed. In this case, it's a deposit, okay, and the amount deposited was $900. So I'm going to say 900 times my rate. Remember, my rate is always a percent, so here's my rate, but I need to make it into a decimal, so I'm going to move that decimal point 2 places to the left, so 400 times the time that it sat in the account. And remember, the time has to be in years, and this one already is in years, so that's perfect. I'm just going to write times 20 at the end. So it's saying to find the interest, all I have to do is multiply 900 times 0.04 times the 20 years that it sat in the account. And just for having my money sit in that account for 20 years, which I know is a long time, it earned $720. Literally did nothing. I just left $900 in the bank for 20 years, and I get an extra $720. All right, so now it says, what's the total value in the account now? Okay, so I deposited $900 plus I now earned $720 in interest. So if I add those together, it will tell me my new account balance. And my new account balance then is $1,620. Pretty cool, huh? All right, a $5,600 deposit for 45 years at a simple interest rate of 3%. So let's say something happened and your mom and dad gave you $5,600 and you decided to put that, you know what, I don't need that money for anything. I'm just going to let it sit in a savings account for 45 years. It's a really long time. Okay, let's see how much interest it would earn. So remember, we always start by writing our formula. I equals PRT. And then I'm going to fill in what I know. I'm trying to find the interest, so I'm going to leave that as an I. My principal is the amount deposited or borrowed. In this case, it was a deposit. And I deposited $5,600. Times my rate. My rate is always a percent. So here's my percent. And remember, I got to turn that percent into a decimal. So that's going to be 3/100 times the time. And the time has to be in years, which it is, so that's good. So I'm going to multiply it by 45. So let's figure out what the interest would be. So I'm going to put 5,600 times 3/100 times 45. And I find out that that account is going to earn $7,560 in interest just for sitting in the bank for 45 years, which is a really long time. But let's say you didn't need that money for any reason and you could let it do that. Then it more than doubled just by sitting in the bank for that many years. Okay, now what's the value of the account? Well, I originally put in $5,600 plus now it has earned $7,560 in interest. And if I add those numbers together, it'll tell me the new account value. So my account value is now worth $13,160. All right, let's try another one. Danielle takes out a $2,500 loan for 5 years at a rate of 5.5%. How much is Danielle going to pay in interest? Okay, so I equals PRT. Okay, interest is what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out how much Danielle is going to have to pay back the bank in interest. So I is going to stay the same. The principal, remember, that's the amount she borrowed or loaned. Okay, so she got a loan for $2,500 times the rate, and this rate is 5.5%. So it's already a decimal, but it's a percent. We still need to move that decimal point 2 places to the left. Okay, this is a percent. Yes, there's a decimal in the percent, but it's still a percent. You still need to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. So I know 5.5% as a decimal is 55 thousandths times she's borrowing it for 5 years. Okay, it's already written in years, which is great. So I just have to write a 5. All right, so we're going to do 2,500 times 55 thousandths, 0.055, times 5 years. Now, I'm going to get a decimal answer, but remember, we're talking about money here, so we need to go out to the hundredths position. So I'm not going to write it like this because that looks funny to my eye. I'm going to add that 0 in there. So I know she's going to pay back $687.50 in interest. Now, I want you to understand that when you borrow money or you take out a loan, not only do you have to pay back the amount you borrowed, so she has to pay back $2,500, she also has to pay back the interest. So she has to pay back an additional $687.50. That's why if you guys decide to go to college someday, you want to take out as few loans as possible. Get as many scholarships as you can. That way you're not borrowing so much money. Because when you borrow money, you also have to pay back the interest. It's actually a lot more than what you think when you're borrowing the money. So be careful. Same thing with credit cards. If you don't pay them off all the way, right away, every month, you have to pay interest on them, and it can build up really fast. All right, last one. Terry invests $6,000 in a CD with an annual rate of 7%. Okay, first of all, you're probably wondering what a CD is. So a CD is not like the silver disc that you're thinking about that you put in a CD player and it plays music. A CD in this case, and I'm not exactly sure what the C and the D stand for, but I do know it's a special kind of account where if I'm going to put in $6,000, I'm not allowed to touch it for a certain period of time. So if I do a CD, sometimes you can find a CD at 10%, but then you can't touch that money for 5 years. You have to keep all of the money you deposited in the bank for that many years to be able to collect the interest. So if there was some kind of an emergency and you needed it, then you would be losing the interest that you were collecting on it. So it's one of those things that's a really smart thing to do if you know you have extra money that you will not need. So here we go. Terry invests $6,000 in a CD with an annual rate of 7%. How much will his investment be worth at the end of 6 months? So you never find a monthly CD. They're usually like 5, 10, 15 years. They're big chunks of time. So I'm going to say I equals P, R, and T. We're trying to figure out what his interest will be. That way we can figure out how much the whole account is. Because notice the question isn't what's the interest, it's how much will his investment be worth at the end of 6 months. It's asking the total. But to figure out the total, I first have to figure out the interest. So I'm going to say principal, that's the amount the amount deposited or amount borrowed. In this case, it says he invested $6,000. That means he's putting in $6,000 times the rate. Here's my rate. And that would be written as 700 as a percent, or as a decimal, I'm sorry. And then time, this says at the end of 6 months. He's just curious how much he would even make at the end of 6 months. Now remember, time always has to be written in years, and this is months. Now, we know that 6 months is half of a year, and I like to write it as a decimal, so I'm going to write 0.5. Okay, so let's figure out how much interest he would make in just those 6 months. So I'm going to do 6,000 times 700.07 times 5/10, which represents a half of a year or 6 months. And in just those 6 months, his interest is going to be $210. All right, so that's it. Next time I see you, we're going to talk about how to find principal, rate, or time when I give you the interest.